I have no idea why that popped into my head. No idea whatsoever. I'm just crazy like that, I guess. Sending out the call, running just a little behind. Not anywhere close to how behind as I have been. Doing actually halfway decent today. So hopefully everything will go well. Of course, the big thing will be not this stream, but what happens in the next stream. Whether or not games and queues stay stable. That is, of course, the big question. Okay, so I always do the Tumblr ones first because the Tumblr posts are the ones that take the longest to do. Now I gotta punch out all of the rest of the socials to send out the call and get the stream going. Good morning, everyone. I won't be able to see chat while I'm doing this, so I will get to chat as soon as I can. Okay, and I shouldn't need that tab anymore. Now, time for the good old copy pasta. Boop. Again, I have no idea why Katie is stuck in my head right now. I wonder if anyone's got the full Katie soundtrack up. That would potentially be a fun one to have on just a talk stream, just have some Katie soundtrack going on in the background. Oh, I don't have my mic in front of me yet, so my voice might be a little bit distanced until I'm done getting all of this set up. Okay. And then switch. Had to do this the complicated way. I had to set everything up so I have a separate account for Path of Exile on everything. I just had to make things harder on myself. Oop. The thing is, some of these accounts, like the only reason they exist is just so people can't try to pretend to be me or anything like that. Because unfortunately, that is something I've actually. You would not think, okay, someone as small time as me, all right, like I've never been over 100 subs on my YouTube. You would not think that anyone would ever potentially care about faking being me. You would not think that would ever happen. Yet, when Snapchat came out, someone grabbed my name for a Snapchat channel. Like, and I've done searches to see like where else it's, and my name just does not pop up. Like it, again, I'm a nobody. Nobody should care about me outside of my friends. The whole reason I'm doing this is just to get as much promotion as possible, add as much to the numbers as possible, and give as much feedback as possible. Yet somebody decided, oh, I'm going to make a Snapchat account under that YouTuber's name. What? So I made sure on all of the socials I care about, I have this name now. But it does make sending out the call. Again, I really should. I've been so busy trying to get stuff edited. Is the reason I haven't even done it yet. Is I've been so busy getting ready to make sure everything was ready for launch today that I just haven't had the time to look for like social media tools. All right. But enough ranting about that. Let's get my mic where it belongs. About here should be good. Been trying to find the optimum distance so that I can be heard clearly, but my microphone doesn't peak and break things. Last thing we need is for me to be scratching out you guys' speakers. Like, we don't need that. Nobody needs that. Especially not for me. Nobody needs that for me. All right. Let's head to Warhammer Community. So we know we've got this Red Gobbo comic. I already checked that out. It's just a silly little thing like all the Red Gobbo comics are. Like, what? Why are the IDNF joining the snowball fight against the Red Gobbo? Why not? And as he says in the cloud, it's like, lucky you had that shoot in there, boss. Luck? Nah, this is my comic, so I make the rules. Actually, maybe I got a decent goblin voice, huh? Is this a decent goblin voice? Does this make a good Red Gobbo? All right. Take a quick look, see if there's any other updates. We already looked at him. I already voted on this. In case you're curious, I voted for Avalon for 40k. I voted for Abraxia for Age of Sigmar, and then I voted for the Malstrain Gene Stealers for the other properties. Because I freaking love the Malstrain Gene Stealers from Necromunda. Those are amazing. It's the whole reason I bought the new Necromunda set. Those will probably end up in an army at some point. All right. Grotmas calendar, day 6. Dreaming of a silver Grotmas. I'm dreaming of a silver Grotmas. Just like the ones millions of years ago. The Necrons have thrown open the vaults for Grotmas, and the Star Shatter arsenal is lumbering out. This is where that meme came from. I saw this meme posted today while I was doing my early morning socials. It's like, strategy, stratagem when activated, start of the game, target the nearest star. Effect, your opponent loses the game. Restriction, roll 10d6. If you roll all sixes, you can never play Warhammer again. Oh. What a lot of people need to remember, though, is. Although, man, that could be changing. Oh, sorry, good to make things on nasals for a second. Yeah. Um, this could be changing, at least in the lore. So, for those of you who aren't aware, or aren't that lore deep, the reason why Necrons have such ridiculously, like, literally universe sculpting technologies, yet they still field foot soldiers, is they have this whole, like, colonial superiority complex around, like, honorable combat. Okay, they field their armies in these ranked up legions, not because they have to, but because they feel like it impresses their might upon the lesser species. And it's almost like the predators, hunting with the more primitive weapons against more primitive species. Like, they are using old-fashioned warfare to show how much better they are than the rest of us. Like, so they have this whole dynastic code thing that basically makes it so, like, sets the rules for when and how you can use what weapons against the species. And of course, it always gives the Necrons an advantage. Just like the Predator has his, like, heat-seeking tracking laser blaster. The plasma caster, I think, is what the official name for it is. Just like, the Predator uses that against humans who are armed with, like, regular slug throwing guns. The Necrons, are still going to use their Gauss flares. They're still going to use these massive reality warping cannons and things like that. But they only just use just that little step above that they think they absolutely, they go basically as low tech as they absolutely feel they can get away with, while still guaranteeing victory. But in the lore, that's kind of changed, and it might be the Imperium's fault. I mean, so much of this, what's wrong in the 40k first millennium is, of course, the Imperium's fault. But in the whole, we've got the whole Pariah Nexus anomaly going on, and the whole war that's going on there. And Gilliman sends Call to go and explore and figure out what's going on and see what they can do what the AdMech can do to stop it. And of course, Call is a radical by AdMech standards. And today he would be considered absolutely freaking hidebound. But in the 41st millennium, in the Adeptus Mechanicus, he's a radical. He's a revolutionary. And so he's got all of these people under him that are sympathetic to that. And of course, one of the reasons why AdMech like Call, you have forces loyal to Call, is because Call lets them get away with stuff. So they basically have all of these older weapons that have kind of been, like, banned by the Imperium, by Imperial Edict, by the Emperor a while ago. Like, literally Dark Age of Technology weapons. And they start getting into a war with the Necrons in the Pariah Nexus. And, well, the AdMech can't help themselves. They see the Necrons with all these advanced technology, and they're like, we must show them the might of the Omnissiah. So, yeah, they start unleashing all of their reality world-ending weapons against the Necrons. And so the Silent King actually lifts sanctions and says, hey, you want to play this way? We can play this way. And the only one in the Pariah Nexus still following dynastic code at this point is Imhotep. And of course, he's making this big deal and is showing up the Silent King by basically going, look at this guy. He has to pull all of these reality bending weapons out of our old vaults in order to beat a species as pathetic as humanity. Look at me. I'm just following the dynastic code. I'm still getting the same result. I'm doing better than he is without all those reality bending weapons. So why are you following him and not me? Like, and it's a fantastic little plot line that they're developing there. I freaking love the Necron lore in 40k. They literally went from, it's like, do you want Terminators in 40k? Here's how you get Terminators in 40k, to being legit one of the most fascinating factions. All right, let's see what they're getting. If I remember correctly, Necrons are doing pretty good in standing right now. I think they're mid-tier to lower mid-tier, so I think they could use a little bit of a boost. I can pull up stats right now and take a look. See how things really stand. But the nerfs against Necrons were effective. They did take them out of the top tier. They're not one of the terrors of the tabletop anymore. That's Guard, Sisters, and Genestealer Cult. And even Sisters are not so much as Guard and Cult. I am not right in my predictions very often, but I was totally right about Genestealer Cult becoming a problem. I'm like, you spent all this time nerfing Wolf Jail, and now you're going to let Jackal spam happen. And the funny thing is they don't even need the Jackal spam. In a way, one of the reasons the Jackal spam, I think, hasn't shown up is because of how little synergy it has with the rules right now. All right. An enormous array of arcane mechanical treasures are stored in the grand armories of the Necron dynasties. Some nobles prefer to wage mobile warfare using imperious anti-grav war barks, looming mechanical walkers, and supersonic assault craft powered by Eldritch technologies. Pardon me. A little bit of... Where'd this come from? To outflank, outrun, and eliminate their enemies. As the armored tide sweeps over the hopelessly outmatched foes, Ghost Arcs swoop low to disgorge rank upon rank of skeletal Necron warriors. Other forms of servile construct and maniacal killing machines join the lethal procession, adding their own cosmic wrath. And when the foe inevitably breaks, dynastic soldiery fused with repulsor-driven platforms thive down any who would attempt to flee. So this is showing, again, this is where we're actually getting into that whole escalation that's happening. The Necrons of the Starshatter Arsenal unleash a relentless onslaught. The detachment rule for this force upon their enemies holding objectives. Necron models shooting at enemy units on objectives add 1 to their hit rolls, while ranged weapons equipped by Necron vehicles and models gain assault. Necron characters use some of the most advanced technology in the universe, such as the chrono impedance field, which reads vehicles in a time dilation field. Continuing with the time-bending theme, commanders can also use chrono shift stratagem to allow their vehicles to advance 6 automatically. So this is a Necron vehicle detachment. That's what we're looking at here. So we had all of these different, Necrons ate well. Their codexes gave them good detachments to play around with. Awakened Dynasty is still strong to begin with, and then you get Canoptic Court, and you get Hypercrypt. I can't remember. I think there's a more elite focused one, and even that one's good. It's just not as good as the others. Pardon me a moment. So this is going to be a Necron vehicle detachment. We're going to be able to field a more what's a good word for it? More stat checky, more hyper focused army there. All right, weave to a real Grotmas miracle for you all tomorrow. I think this is supposed to be we got a real Grotmas. The Space Marines of the Death Watch have heard your pleas and earned a full index. You realize they had one, right? Hopefully this means they reworked the Death Watch index, is what this means, is that they reworked it. Tried to rework it, rebalance it. It was actually really strong to begin with, like when it first came out, and then they nerfed it, and then they didn't, and then they changed the rules, so the nerfs probably weren't necessary, and then they didn't unnerf it. But all right, let's take a look at our new Necrons. I'm curious if any of these have gotten any updates though, for because a few of these have some ones where I'm like, this looks like it might. Looks like there might be a few mess ups, little mistakes they made in writing. And I'm not the only one who've pointed that out. All right, Necron Starshatter Arsenal. All right. Detachment rule, relentless onslaught. The Necrons possess countless terrifying engines of war. When mustered in great numbers, these instruments of annihilation sweep across the battlefield, seeking to reclaim lost realms and obliterate any foolish enough to trespass upon the territories of their ancient dynasty. Each time a Necron's model from your army makes an attack that targets a unit within range of one or more objective markers, add 1 to the hit roll. In addition, ranged weapons equipped by Necron vehicles and Necron mounted models, excluding Titanic models, from your army have the assault ability. So not assault when they're like on or near objectives or anything like that. They just flat out have assault. So these are 2 relevant and powerful abilities. +1 to hit even just against targets on objectives. The whole point of the game is to take objectives from your opponent and keep them away from them. So, and again, this is any attack. So +1 to hit on all attacks against objectives, and all vehicles have assault. Yeah, we're off to a good start. This is already very powerful. Enhancements, Dread Majesty, Aura, 30 points. When this noble unleashes the might of their cosmic armory, their followers are left in no doubt as to the importance of the battle at hand. If they do not strive to live up to the lethal effectiveness of their dynasty's war engines, their overlord's wrath will be terrible. So Overlord or Catacomb Command Barge only. While a friendly Necron's unit, excluding Titanic units, is within 6 inches of the bearer, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1 and reroll a wound roll of 1. Necrons have so much sustained hits. They have so many relevant keywords that synergize with this. So yeah, and just in any army, a 6-inch aura of reroll 1s to wound and hit, that's fantastic. Like, I think only Space Marines are like the only ones that would snub their noses at this, thumb their noses at this. Yeah, this is a fantastic enhancement. Miniaturized Nebula Scope, 15 points. Feeding vampirically on data streams from the Dynasty's war engines, this device enables its owner to track enemies through multiple dimensions, leaving them no hiding place. Necron models only. So any character. Ranged weapons equipped by models in the bearer's unit have ignores cover. And again, as I've been saying, because we've been seeing a lot of this, we've seen a lot of this throughout these detachments. It's one of the reasons why I'm so puzzled that they thought that giving Thousand Suns a benefit of cover stratagem as a little bonus actually mattered, because at this point GW should know how easy it is to get cover in 40k. You've got cover. Like, it is so easy when you look at the rules. Like, basically, unless your opponent is completely out in the open and you're completely out in the open and you're shooting directly, they've got cover. It's kind of crazy. On the one hand, it's probably realistic for like how a battlefield would really work, especially since the cover bonus isn't while it's a fantastic bonus, it's not as flexible or stackable as it has been in past editions of 40k. Like Ninths, of course, we had all of the different variations of cover, and you can literally stack them up. So, you know, it's probably a good thing to have in the game, but it does mean that Ignores Cover is a very relevant ability. You know, on anything with an AP -1 or better, it's basically another pip of AP. So, Demanding Leader. The Necron Noble is a master of rapid warfare, commanding armored columns with great precision. Necron's model only, even though it said noble, which is any Necron character can have this. In your movement phase, select one friendly Necron's vehicle or Necron's mounted unit, excluding Titanic, within 6 inches of the bearer until the start of your next command phase. That unit is eligible to shoot in a turn in which it fell back. Fall back and shoot is also relevant, especially on vehicles. Now, vehicles, of course, have big guns never tire. But remember, big guns, you're -1 to hit. And the other important thing about falling back is that if you're a vehicle in combat with infantry, you can be shot at. The infantry in combat with you can't. So it is very important to be able to fall back your vehicle so that the rest of your army can potentially eliminate threats, because that is a very easy way to protect your units. You know, your high value units is charging them into vehicles. Not only are you getting that extra mobility from your charge move, but you have now protected your unit from being shot at in your opponent's shooting phase. So, and vehicles, the vast majority of vehicles in combat, unless it's a walker, the vast majority of vehicles in combat have absolutely terrible combat rolls. So, you know, their combat weapons and their combat abilities are basically non-existent. Yeah, they've got their whole armored treads, but most of them are AP 0. Most of them are 1 damage. You know, you've got like maybe 6 attacks. The only good thing is that many of them are at a higher strength score. So you can protect your units by charging vehicles. So it is really important from your opponent's perspective that they can take those vehicles and fall them back. But of course, they bring those vehicles back out of combat. They can't shoot. This protects against that. The only thing is you have to stay close to the vehicles in order to use this. But again, this is going to be a very vehicle heavy list. That seems to be the theme here. Chrono Impedance Field, 25 points. When activated, this device reaves dynastic craft in a time dilation field that reduces the force of incoming blows and shots. Necron model only. In your command phase, select one friendly Necron vehicle or Necron mounted unit, again excluding Titanic, within 6 inches of the bearer until the start of your next command phase. Each time an attack is allocated to a model in that unit, -1 to damage. -1 damage is always relevant. There is a lot of damage 2, damage 3 weaponry in the game, and you're going to see a lot of it if you're facing an opponent on a competitive table. So any -1 to damage sources you can get are fantastic. Man, this is tough. I think you probably always bring Dread Majesty. It's the rest of these. Wow. I think the rest of these you're going to base what you take based on points you have available. Like what I would probably do is I would probably put Dread Majesty, like if I'm taking an Overlord or a Command Barge, I'm going to put Dread Majesty on it. And then I'd probably build the rest of my army, and then I'd see how much points I've got left, and then I'd decide what others. Because I think you take 3 of these. It's just a question of which 3 you take. Because these are all good. These are all good. They're all relevant. This is a A tier, if not S tier, enhancements list. All right. Merciless Reclamation, 1 CP battle tactic stratagem. Your shooting phase or your fight phase, either your shooting phase or any fight phase. I do kind of wish they just clarify. I know that green means you can use it on any turn, but I do wish that I feel like it makes it more obvious if you say any fight phase. Target 1 Necron's unit, excluding Titanic units. I think that's the Doomstalker. Other than of course, you do have Necron still have their Forge World, their one Forge World Titanic unit. But I think the Stalker is Titanic. So this is basically everything but that in your average Necron army. I'd have to double check. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes an attack, if the target of the attack is within range of one or more objective markers, add 1 to the rune wall. To the rune wall. We need to add 1 to runes. Yeah. So you've already got +1 to hit. Now you're +1 to wound. And +1 to wound is always going to be relevant in 10th edition. +1 to hit is not always relevant, depending on what your stats are and what your army rules are. You know, it's usually still a good thing to have, but obviously if you're already hitting on 2s, +1 to hit doesn't matter. But +1 to wounds always matters. Because even if you have a lot of targets you can wound on 2s against, you never know what you're going to be shooting at until you're on the table, until you're actually in the moment. So +1 to wound is always a great stratagem. One bottle of water down. Dimensional Tunnel. 1 CP strategic ploy stratagem. Using phase-shifting technology, Necron war engines can slip into alternate dimensions, leaving only ghostly traces as they move through solid matter. Used during your movement phase. The target is a single Necron vehicle or Necron mounted unit. Again, no Titanic, from your army. I wish someone were in chat. I don't want to pull up another source right now. And again, I don't have the Necron Codex, but are Tomb Blades mounted? I think they might have been mounted in the index. I don't know if they stay that way. Until the end of the phase, models in your unit can move horizontally through models and terrain features. So we already saw this in Dark Angels, but this is terrain feature. This is isn't just terrain features, it's models too. So you're literally just blinking through anything to get to your destination. Again, this is fantastic. Now you're not going to be using it the entire game. You know, there might be times, especially if you're falling back from something in the late game, that you might still use this. But in the early game, using this speed onto the board and setup, it cannot be understated how good moving through terrain is in 10th edition. 10th edition boards tend to be very terrain heavy. GW is encouraging that. They've balanced their rules for melee versus ranged around having terrain heavy boards. They balanced infantry versus vehicles by the infantry being able to move through ruin walls. So anytime you can take a vehicle and move it through terrain, that is fantastic. So again, another banger stratagem. Unyielding Form, 1 CP battle tactic. Wrought from living metal and further protected by the arcane technologies of Cryptex, the form of Necron vehicles and steeds are almost impervious to conventional weapons. Used on your opponent's shooting phase or any fight phase just after an enemy unit has selected its target. Target run Necron vehicle. Target 1 Necron's vehicle or Necron's mounted unit, again, excluding Titanic, from your army that was selected as the target of one or more of the attacking unit's attacks. Until the end of the phase, each time an attack targets a model in your unit, if the string... It's new transhuman. It's new transhuman physiology, but for Necron vehicles. And again, that's a great stratagem. It's relevant. And I really do prefer this to... old transhuman. See, transhuman never made sense to me because it was always hard to get around the logic. Like, they always took it from the one angle of it's like, oh well, no matter how good of a weapon they use, it's the Space Marines, great physiology, gene might can potentially resist, and the Space Marine can survive. And it's like, yeah, but on the other end of that, if you flip it around, that means that a volcano cannon from a warlord titan has the exact same chance of killing a Space Marine as a stub gun does. Like, no? Now, the to hits version made sense to me because, like, you can see scenarios. Like, let's say, for example, they decided to make, like, represent Harlequin shimmer fields. They're I forget what the name of the field is, but the whole kaleidoscopic field thing that they have around them. Let's say they decided to make that by, you can never roll better than a 4+ to hit. Okay, that makes sense to me because I can see how a confused, an unskilled sniper or gunman might, try to fire wildly and get lucky and hit the target. Whereas, like, you're perfect, like you're Vindicare assassin, you're perfect snipers. They think they've got the shot, but the field has actually deceived them, so they're just as likely to miss as the unskilled gunman is. So I can see that working, but the whole 4-up transhuman never worked for me. It just never met the fantasy in my head, and of course it turned out to be too powerful. And keep in mind, I'm saying this as a Tyranids player, and I had transhuman on stuff. I had transhuman on Tyranid warriors at one point. So I like the new transhuman, and the new transhuman is good. And especially when you consider the toughness of Necron vehicles and how hard it is to even get to that 5+, against some vehicles. Like, again, remember, monoliths are T12. No, monoliths are T14. Monoliths are toughness 14. So you need to get to strength 15 to get that -1. You need to get to strength 15 to get to 3+ to wound. Okay, you need knights. I need my rupture cannons to get a 3-up to wound against a monolith. And now the Necron player gets to say, nope, still on force. Still on force. So yeah, this is very relevant for this detachment. Endless Servitude. 1 CP strategic ploy. Should the unclean thralls of lesser species threaten dynastic territories, the fallen Necron soldiery will rise to repel the interlopers. Use at the end of your fight phase. 1 Necron unit, excluding Titanic unit, from your army that is within range of 1 or more objective markers you control. Your unit's reanimation protocols activate. Yeah, on-demand reanimation protocols are great. So keep in mind, like, you're going to be activating reanimation protocols, then you're going to be going through your turn, you're going to fight, and then you get to do it again. All right. Chrono Shift. 1 CP strategic ploy in your movement phase. 1 Necron vehicle or Necron mounted unit, including Titanic units, from your army that has not been selected to move this phase. Until the end of the phase, if your unit advances, do not make an advance roll for it. Instead, until the end of the phase, add 6 to the movement. This is probably the weakest stratagem I've read in this detachment so far, and it's still good. This is the weakest one, and it's still good. You're not always going to use it, but you know, the big problem with Chrono Shift, I think, is especially when you've got this one. By the way, remember our army roll here, or detachment roll. Remember the detachment roll we have. All of your Necron vehicles and mounted units have assault. So you're going to be advancing all the time. The only problem with this is you've got this. This, most of the time, this is going to be better than a 6-inch advance. Especially since you could end up rolling the 6s. And remember, you don't get to see your roll force. You pick this before you have selected your target to move. You have to select and then declare the advance and then roll the advance. So you do not know what they've rolled or what they're going to roll. So, but this is still a good stratagem. It's just meh. Meh. So yeah, so we are you are probably not going to use it. Probably. Maybe at some point you have CP stacked up and you use both of these. Because you can't, there's nothing stopping you from using both. But my guess is you save your CP because you've got so many good stratagems you can use. Reactive reposition. 1 CP strategic ploy. Subroutines buried deep within the neural networks of Necron soldiers and crews enable them to react instantaneously to targeting locks, repositioning themselves to evade incoming fire or close in upon the foe. Used during your opponent's shooting phase, just after an enemy unit is shot. 1 Necron unit from your army, excluding Titanic, that was the target of 1 or more of the attacking unit's attacks. Your unit can make a normal move of up to D6 inches or up to 6 inches instead if it is a mounted or vehicle unit. So you're doing a reactive move to getting shot at. Now, you're still taking damage. You are still getting shot at. But you're one of the things you'll often do is if you've got a target that is in range of some weapons, but you've only got one weapon that is one group of weapons that's in range. Sometimes if you've got higher priority targets, you'll pepper that unit with the unit that has to target it, because you've got other higher priority targets to worry about. And then what you'll do is you'll focus on the other higher priority targets. And then, you know, once you've targeted those down, anything you've got left will get to, you'll fire that. Now, then they could use this to get away. Now, you of course you think, well, aren't they going to use this on the targets you're trying to gun down? Well, if you're trying to gun down a target, a reactive move isn't going to stop you from shooting at it. Although, yeah, this is your movement phase, so it's not like you're going to be ducking. It's not like you're going to duck one of the vehicles through the wall of a ruin using this. So the odds that you can use this to get one of your vehicles to escape when your opponent is specifically targeting down those vehicles, that's probably not going to happen. But this can help protect other units you've got from incidental damage that they would have otherwise taken. So this is very niche. You're not going to use this every game, let alone every turn. But it is good to have in your pocket. So we've got 4 bangers. We've got a good stratagem that you're not, the only reason you're not using it is because of this one. And we've got a nice little pocket stratagem to always have available, you know, that is a nice to have. This is an A tier stratagem section. So yeah, so we've got an A to S tier rule. We've got an A to S tier we've got an A to S tier enhancement section, and then we got an A tier strat section. And the detachment it's fun, it's fluffy, it looks like it's going to be strong. Will it shift people away from Hypercrypt and Canoptic Court? I don't know. I think that Necrons have had their codex long enough. We're probably going to see players try this just for a change of pace. And I think that they will have. I think a good player with this detachment is going to have a lot of fun. And I think even if you're not a good player, even if all you want to do is just put a bunch of Necron vehicles on the battlefield, you're going to have fun with this. Yeah, this is fun, it's fluffy, and it's powerful. This is a great detachment. I should start keeping score on this, but honestly, really, like the only one I haven't liked is Thousand Suns, and that's because it was a fluffy detachment. It was fluffy, but I don't feel like they executed the rules well on it. I don't think there was enough power in it, and it was the rules and the theming behind it were just a little too close to the index detachment. It doesn't feel like it felt like a different way to play an army you were already playing, whereas all of the other ones like I think the weakest of the detachments besides that one was my Warriors detachment that they released. And even then, that was a fluffy detachment. And as Art of War poured out, I was actually wrong. So my complaint was the Tyranid Warrior detachment was it affects 3 data sheets. That is not correct. Its rules affect everything with the Tyranid Warrior keyword, and all Tyranid Warriors in the Winged Prime gain the Tyranid Warrior keyword. Well, the way keywords work in 40k is if a thing says targets a unit with the keyword, okay, if you've got a character with that keyword attached to that unit has that keyword. So Neuro Tyrants in a warrior unit benefit from strats that target Tyranid warriors. Gargoyles with a Winged Prime get to benefit from it. That's not a lot. And again, the Tyranid Codex is deeper, but that is still more units that are getting affected by that. So, but even with that being limitation being the case, it's still a fluffy detachment. It's still a fun new way to play Tyranids. So that was my biggest complaint was the Thousand Suns, and I think a lot of people's biggest complaint. And this is a new way to play Necrons. Okay, same thing with Dark Angels. The Dark Angels detachment was a very fun and fluffy detachment. I don't think it's as strong as the Gladius. I'm not sure. In fact, I pretty much know it's not as strong as many of the core codex detachments, and I don't think it's strong as the new buffed Inner Circle. But it was still fun and fluffy. This is fun and fluffy and powerful. The Death Guard one is fun and fluffy and probably good. And the AdMech one from yesterday was fun and fluffy and powerful. So, yeah. So far, Thousand Suns is the only one I have all complaints with. That is the only one I haven't liked. Other than that, GW just knocked it out of the park. Hopefully, to all of you Death Guard players out there, or sorry, not Death Guard, all of you Death Watch players out there, they use Death too much. Death Guard, Death Watch, Death Company, Death Wing, Death Star. Yeah, I know that's Star Wars. But yeah, hopefully to all you Death Watch players, they've got something cooked up that's this good for you tomorrow, so you can actually play your faction again, and not have to worry about being completely irrelevant as far as competitive standings go. So, all right, my plans now. I'm gonna break for lunch. As soon as I'm done eating, I'm coming back. I am booting up my Path of Exile stream. Pray for the servers. Give the servers your energy. Oh, I guarantee we're going to see a spike. We're going to see a wave of people redeeming keys and trying to get in today. So this is more people than they were expecting, more people than they were prepared for. I think like peak Path of Exile 1 has still less than 200,000 players. They prepared for 1 million. And just like Blizzard back in the day was World of Warcraft going, oh, there's no way we're going to do this good. Now they're not going to get an order of magnitude. Well, they might reach order of magnitude to do levels. They might hit 2 million at this rate. But yeah, so hopefully everything goes well. I'm gonna see you over on my other channels on Exiled Erdrick. Please join me on that. Please help support this game. If you can get into the game to join and buff the numbers, that is the best way. If especially if you're actually paying for your key. If you can't do that, please join either me or another streamer. I am not going to blame you if you join another streamer. I was following Talkative Try earlier today, who is one of my favorite new PoE 2 content creators. He's one of the ones in the shout out video I've been working on. He was giving away keys all throughout while I was listening to his live stream. So jump in, Talkative Try, Zizarin, Darth Microtransactions is streaming today. Asmongold is probably streaming today. Gazzy, Steel Mage, Ben, like jump in on one of the people streaming Path of Exile 2. They'll probably have keys they're giving away, and see if you can grab a key. And while you're doing that, you'll still be supporting Path of Exile 2 because you'll be boosting up Twitch numbers. And we do know from experience at this point that social media presence really boosts the numbers on a game. Considering how good I think this game is going to be, how good it looks, how well Grinding Your Games has handled everything, I feel like it has been underrepresented in the press during a time when I don't feel like there's been a lot of gaming news press things that need to be covered right now. So like I want everyone to see this game, everyone to get eyeballs on it. Even if this game is not for you, even if you bounce off of it, I think that these developers, this team, and this game deserve the support. So I've been Divine Erdrick. I'm going to become Exiled Erdrick in a little bit. And I will see you all in the 41st millennium.